is the McBride Rewind, the show that takes you down memory lane with your host, Josh McBride.
Welcome to the McBride Rewind. Today, sitting down with one of my favorite people and a friend, the EGOT, the legendary Whoopi Goldberg.
Hello.
Thank you for being, number one, the first person on our podcast, the McBride Rewind.
Well, you're welcome.
Let's jump right in. This show is all about taking it back a notch, right? And we kind of look at the nostalgic part, how you started, and how people's career has changed and evolved.
Uh-huh.
Why are you giving me a look?
Because, that is the thing it's been so long since I started. I almost wish we could start in the middle, because I at least remember the middle.
Well, we don't have to go all the way back.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
So when you first started, when was the point that you knew that people knew of you? Was it like, were you walking on the street that you knew that, oh shit, they recognize me?
I don't think I ever kind of went through that.
No.
No.
You weren't walking on the street and someone said, that's Whoopi Goldberg, and you heard them say, that's Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
What, you don't remember? You didn't have, there wasn't a specific experience?
There was no specific experience, because I'd been Whoopi Goldberg for quite some time. I was in San Francisco, so it wasn't a thing. Now, what someone did say to me, my very first publicist, we were coming from rehearsal, and she said, I have to tell you, your show is opening tomorrow, and I don't think you're going to be able to do what you're doing right now ever again. And I said, what do you mean? She said, I don't think you're going to be able to walk down the street anonymously again. She was right.
Wow, just from that one show, or you had already done multiple projects at that point?
Well, I think people, once they heard, because was down at Dance Theater Workshop, and then I was on Broadway, and so I think it sort of came into fruition slowly in New York, but it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At what age, because I think this is public information.
106.
There it is. At what age did you change to have a stage name of Whoopi Goldberg? Because a lot of people don't know that isn't your born name.
Well, if they don't know, they shouldn't know my real name.
They shouldn't.
No. If you don't know that that's not my
2026.
real name,
Right.
then you don't need to know my real name.
Did you decide that? Like, you thought it was a good idea at XYZ age to...
I thought it was fun. It was silly, and, I'm a farty kind of girl.
Right, and that's why it came that.
Yeah.
Your first job in the industry, outside of stage, outside of comedy clubs, on TV, was it a commercial? Was it a movie? The actual first job was what?
In the industry?
Yeah.
When you say the industry, what do you mean?
A lot of people started their career doing a commercial, maybe a play. You did a lot of plays, obviously, and you were doing that. But like a lot of people, I worked for a car dealership commercial, and I was the spokesperson.
Yeah, no, there was none of
that.
There was none of that. There was just, I didn't start doing something else. I always was doing stuff with other actors, but, you're going through schools and you're doing stuff, but nothing that you were getting paid, like, oh my God, this is crazy, kind of. So it's not even an industrial. It's just, you go and you're talking about gold beneath the earth, alive in all its glory. And you go to all of these high schools and you do these performances, as you may remember. I don't know if you remember having actors show up at your school doing weird actor stuff that the school was saying, oh, that's it. We're going to learn about gold today. And then boom, there you are.
Right. What about looking back at this moment? And I'm sure there's multiple, but if you could pick three, is there three projects that you can say, that's the one I'm most proud of, that's the one I'm the most proud of, and that's the one? Not maybe the most known to people, but the most that you were proud of.
Well, the thing I'm most proud of in my life is my kid. That's the thing I'm most proud of. She's grown up to be a rather strange and wonderful woman, and she's raised three very strange, wonderful people. And two of those people have now produced yet more people. So I'm proud of my contribution to the human race in the world.
What about when it came to movies?
Oh, that.
That's a job.
That is a job. Most proud of. The truth of the matter is I'm proud of all of them because I'm really honored to be able to do what I do, whether it's making movies or sitting on television or doing anything. I recognize how privileged I am to have this kind of work. So I'm really proud of all of it. Some of it, didn't do as well as you wanted to, but that's life. But I'm really proud that I'm a fairly good actor, and I'm a fairly decent human being, and that's my pride, that I don't have to hang my head or pretend I'm something I'm not. I've always had the ability to roll as myself, and so that gives me a lot of pride.
And to have your own feels about a project where you're like, because I'm sure there's a bunch of projects you've been like, nah, I'm good on that. But to be able to take on projects that you really want to take on, I'm sure that's part of it.
Well, it's not like, right, now come on. You see me. See, I'm a brown lady. It's not like people are feeding me projects and I'm just knocking them back.
I think people would be surprised to hear that.
They just did.
Yeah.
They just did. Listen, and it's at every level. You are given what you're given when you're given it. And, I have grown up a little bit. I'm a little older. And so I'm not the first thing on people's minds, And I'm okay with that. I grumble a little bit from time to time because I see things that I think, oh, I would have liked to have done that. And then I think, oh, they're all 17 years old, and there's not a place for me. But, this happens in a career. Your career goes up and down, and you get what you get, and you go after the things you want. And some you get, some you don't. But it's not like anybody is throwing scripts at me.
I think people, if you told Joe Schmo that.
I just did.
But I'm just,
Joe,
well, that's what
Joe, you hear me? I'm talking to you.
But I think it's shocking for a lot of people because they're like, she's an EGOT, she's got every award, people know her name when you walk down the street, and they go, she probably gets offered a ton of things.
No, I don't.
What about, was there ever a role that you really wanted and it didn't come to fruition, or even that you had to turn down for other reasonings of scheduling, or you were working on other projects or something like that?
Yeah, the original, so I'm a big Stephen King fanatic fan, and the original Stand that they did for television in the 90s, I was going to play Mother Abigail, and I was in the middle of another movie, and they wouldn't adjust for me to go do it. So instead, Ruby Dee did it. And so I was like, I'm never doing this again. And then years later, it showed up. Again, they did a remake. And of course, I got to do it this time. And I was probably the right age for it this time.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Wow. That's hard to believe, though, where you hear about so many actors, especially nowadays, where they're like, "Oh, we'll move the schedule for you.
Yeah,
we'll change things around."
I wasn't that actor yet.
Not yet.
No, I'm sure. I'm not even sure I'm that actor now.
I think you're that actor now.
Oh.
Is there a moment in your career,
right,
where maybe you almost didn't get cast on something, you weren't a part of something, but then when you did, it changed everything?
I don't know if it changed everything, but there are. There's a story that many people know that I was sitting at lunch with a friend of mine who came to see me in L.A. And I said, "What are you up to?" She said, "Girl, I just came coming from this audition. Every black woman on the planet has gone to audition for this part. People got up out the dead to go audition for this part." And I'm thinking, wow. I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything.
Part?
But
sorry, I'm getting excited. Keep going. Tell the story.
I'm telling you the story. So we're eating and we finish eating. She goes home. And I call my agent and I say, do you know about this movie that every black woman? He says, who told you? I said, my friend auditioned for it. And she told me, he said, I didn't want to tell you about it. I said, why? What's the matter? He said, they don't want you. they're afraid that you'll take people out of the movie. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of crazy, but okay. So I then am heading down to Alabama, where I'm getting ready to make Long Walk Home with Sissy Spacek. And, there were no phones. We had phones, but you had to really go to the office to pick up the phone. So you got a phone call, your agent calls, he wants you to call him. So now you got to walk all the way because there's no cell. You don't have cells in those days. This is, before that. And so I called my agent. I said, what is going on? He said, well, remember that movie they didn't want you for? I said, yeah. He said, well, they want you to read with the actor that they are planning on casting. And I was like, oh, okay. Do they know that I'm down here in Alabama? They were like, yeah, they're willing to come wherever you are.
Zoom wasn't around then.
No, there was no Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
There was no Zoom. It was just like, pick it up yourself, turn the TV on yourself. It's the olden days,
Yep.
the olden days. And I said, okay, so who is it? And they said, it's Patrick Swayze. And I said, oh, okay. So Patrick Swayze and the director flew down to Alabama for me to improv with Patrick for Ghost.
Why the hell didn't they want you the first time?
Because they had a different woman in mind, I guess. Actually, there's a woman whose name I'm not going to remember, but the show she was on was called That's My Mama. She's a big, black, wonderful. Teresa, I want to say it's Teresa Wright. Funny woman. And that's who I think the writer had in mind. He just didn't see me as that person. But I met up with Patrick, and he was like, did you not want this movie? I was like, no, they said they didn't want me. It's not like I got, turned down power. And he said, oh, well, would you want to do it? And I was like, yeah. And so that's how that happened.
Did you ever go back to your friends that were also auditioning?
No, they all saw. They all realized it.
Yeah.
And she was like, you're good. You were good in it. So
Wow.
I was appreciative.
All right. So moving on past that point in your career, talking Sister Act 1 and 2, what was the prep like for singing in that? Was there a lot of prep behind the scenes, or was it rehearsals or coaching for you, and then also tied to the kids at the same time?
Well, that's two separate questions. Because
two movies.
Two different movies, yeah. I wasn't a singer, so I needed help, and we always knew that was going to be the case because it wasn't something I did normally. And so Mark Shaman said, I got you covered. And so he brought in these two crazy women, and they prepped me and got me ready. And so by the time we did the second one, I was ready for it.
Right.
Yeah.
While we're on that subject, can you say anything about that?
Nothing.
Nothing. Can't say anything about it.
Well, I could say all kinds of stuff about it, but it wouldn't be true.
Okay. But we know nothing.
We don't know.
We don't know anything. A lot of actors do this. I did this very, very young, where I would not lie, but exaggerate on my resume at the time of the skills that I did have. Did you ever do the same thing?
Probably.
What
I had a lot of skills, though.
like?
Well, I could skate.
Okay.
I could dance. I could do Shakespeare. I had a lot of skills, but in my days, it wasn't really what people were looking for at the time, which is why I ended up writing stuff for myself.
There wasn't one that was like, for instance, I'm going to give you my example.
Okay, give me your example.
My example was I took 8 months of American Sign Language.
Uh-huh.
But I told people I was fluent in American Sign Language, so I could do American Sign Language commercials if I needed to. I could not do American Sign Language commercials because I only took 8 months of it, which is not fluent.
Well, but what happened when they asked you to do it?
I freaked out, and then I was like, no, I can't. And then I wound up taking it off the resume at that time.
So let me get this straight.
The whole point.
You took sign language
Yes.
for 8 months.
Correct.
And when somebody said, can you do it? You said you couldn't.
It was it was intensive. It was a lot of it. You've seen how sign language interpreters do their thing. Taking 8 months of Spanish doesn't mean you speak Spanish fluently. But I needed to, like, if it could get me there, and maybe it was like do the alphabet for a commercial. Well, sure, I could do that. Moving right along.
Yeah, because you should have said yes. I'm rusty.
Sure.
As opposed to saying no, I can't do it, because you could do it.
Sure. Not amazingly, but could do it.
But you don't know what they needed.
This is true. Let's talk about the meat and potatoes here.
What meat and potatoes?
You've always been someone, and personally and professionally, that speaks your mind regardless. Do you think people today, regardless personally or professionally, are afraid to be more honest, especially publicly, than when you first started because of backlash that people are going to get? So if I have an opinion,
you always got backlash.
Do you think it's more than today?
No, it's just still the same. Still the same.
It's just more outlets to be able to yell at you because of it.
Yeah. It's, when I was coming up, there was no social media. So, you got yelled at by people, who you saw you went to dinner and somebody said, oh my God, I can't believe you said that, as opposed to, oh my God, what is this? Who said this? It's crazy now.
Somebody said that the other day, that everybody always had an opinion.
Yes.
But now there's a way for you to see everybody's opinion.
Only if you're looking.
Right, and only if you're looking.
Only if you're looking.
Yeah.
And opinions, as you know, are like assholes. Everyone has one.
You've said that forever. And
yes.
the reason I know that is because years and years and years ago, we were at Fashion Week and I was working for a show, and you had said that then to me.
Yeah.
Which could have been.
It stays true.
Yep.
It's still truth.
If 25-year-old Whoopi Goldberg walked into Hollywood today, do you think the industry would know what to do with her? And what would they do?
No idea. And no, I don't think they'd know. But they didn't know then either. So,
They didn't? You don't think that they did? I mean, you've had a really successful...
Yeah. It doesn't mean that I had a successful career because people gave me the things I wanted to do or that I thought I was good at. I got the things that I could do because I made sure I could do them. But I don't think that if 30 years ago someone had asked me to do Hamnet, I think people would have freaked out.
Why?
Because you're not supposed to be able to do Shakespeare. Don't you know this, Josh? You know enough black people. They don't believe we're supposed to be able to do Shakespeare. And, the idea, people have their ideas of who and what you are. And that's how they see you until you show them something different. And that's always the case. That's with everybody, black or white. You have to show them what you can do. Otherwise, they think you are their idea of what you are. Does that make sense?
They put you in a box.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense too.
What about...
What are you reading? Give me those cards.
No, it's a guide. It's a guide.
Let me see.
It's a guide. I'm asking the questions here.
I know you are, but let me see what you...
So let's talk about 25-year-old you.
Why?
Because what would you tell her at this point?
Tell her the same thing I tell her the 70-year-old me. Try not to get in too much trouble.
Don't read my questions. These are good questions. This is this is a fun game.
Oh, there's a promo here.
That's
just to let you know, you are listening to the McBride Rewind.
See, we don't need me to do it.
No.
Okay, let's continue on with this because I had really good questions here and I want to play a game with you.
Tell me, what were you thinking?
I need my cards because I got to play the game with you.
No, you know what you want.
Give me. I got.
Come on.
We got to play the game because it's a rapid fire game and I need the cards because it is rapid fire.
I hate rapid fire games. I do.
What do you like? What is Whoopi Goldberg?
I like a good conversation.
Are we not having one?
Yes, but I wanna loosen that up because you have these questions and they make you stiff.
Do you think I'm stiff?
Well, not normally.
Do you think I'm stiff now?
Well, we're not having a Josh and Whoopi conversation. We're having a business conversation.
Those are. We can't say a lot of those conversations.
Of course we could.
We can.
Well, it's your show.
Yeah. A Josh and Whoopi conversation is very casual.
Yes, it is very casual. Nervous? Did you get nervous when I said that?
No.
Just a little bit.
No.
Just a little bit. The tips of your ears are red.
They're always red. I'm white. I think what we should do
Yeah.
is pivot here
Okay, let's pivot.
and go into, because I think people know you as like the
Well,
movie star,
here's
the
yeah.
this, but you don't really talk about what you do on your time off. You sort of check out,
No.
you go away,
Yeah.
you do the thing, you're quiet. But like when Whoopi Goldberg goes home for the day after the show in the morning,
Hmm.
what does she do?
Whatever's on my schedule.
That's structured. Give me something after. So when
Well,
the schedule is
When
done
the schedule
and the bullshit's
is done,
and the work
I
is done.
put on my headphones and I listen to a good book.
I know that, but and I love
I
that
just
because a
told
lot of
y'all.
people don't. A lot of people don't know
Well,
that.
now they know.
And then what?
And then I go to bed.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is. You know what? I don't sleep a lot, but I rest. I like to rest because my brain is always moving. And sometimes I just need it to stop, and I can only stop it when I rest.
What about for like when you go home? Your go-to meal is what?
Whatever's in the fridge. I know I'm deadly
You're
boring.
giving nothing here.
Well, I don't have it. This is the thing. I try to explain to people because, people think I'm doing this, I'm doing
But
that.
that's what I want to get to is like,
Yeah, but I'm not.
right.
I'm not doing those things.
What's in the fridge?
Now there's soup that my friend Maria made, and there's cheese, which I like a lot.
You snack on those boring crackers.
I love my boring crackers. I've been eating these wasabi crackers, and I love them because they startle me every time I put them in my mouth because, of course, they're covered in wasabi.
Yeah.
And I know what's going to happen. I know it's going to open up my nose. And you think, don't put 3 in your mouth. Just maybe try 1. Nope. Got to do 3 wasabi crackers. And then it's like, it's the greatest thing ever. It makes me happy.
Is this a new one? Because I've never seen you react like that when you eat the crackers.
Well, because I never put 3 in my mouth when I've seen you.
Yes,
But
it's one, eat,
Yes.
listen.
yes, because people are normally talking to me.
Yeah.
And so I put 1 in my, but when no one is talking to me, I get bold. I try to put 2 or 3 in my mouth,
Burn the
and
shit
I
out of your
know, and I know the outcome.
I also think people don't necessarily know this about you is that you're such a family person.
Yeah,
And we talked a little bit about your family, but like you really are, and I know this, but you're a person who communicates with your family a lot. You take care of your family emotionally, physically, like everything with your family. Why has that been important to you, I think, since starting your career? Like a lot of people say, I got to go do my own thing, but I feel like for you, your family has always come first.
well, because I was a single parent, and so there was just 2 of us. It was just me and the kid. And so she has always been my focus. And then she went off and married a really wonderful guy, and they had 3 kids. And so the table got bigger. And then those 3 had 2 more, and the table continues to grow. And I've always felt that I wanted to do as my mother did for me. She did, she made sure she was there if I needed her. I could cry to her. I could laugh to her. I could, I didn't have to lie to her because she'd know. Like once she came home and we saw her coming, me and a couple of friends of mine, and we were smoking cigarettes in the house. And it's so dumb. Didn't open the window. Dumb. And so my mother comes in and we put the things out and we're just sitting around like we haven't been smoking cigarettes. So my mother said, "Where'd you get the cigarettes?" And the girls out the door left. And I was like,
You left me.
They left. Yeah. And I took the cigarettes from you. And she's like, if you're going to smoke, you need to buy your own.
That was the lesson.
That was the lesson.
That was the lesson.
Yeah. Don't take mine. Get your own because they're costly. And so it's like, so that's the kind of stuff that my mom would put in my head, just to have some idea of how life actually works.
I feel like you talk to your kid and the grandkids the exact same as your mother talked to you.
I think so, but they don't have the same kind of distractions, that I didn't have distractions. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have 900 channels to watch. There's it's hard to cut through some of that sometimes when you're just trying to have a conversation and say, hey, think about this as a way to go, and I know that the older you get, the less people really trust what you say. And so it's like you talk to somebody, it's like, oh, okay. And then like a month later, they come back and it's like, you were right. It's like, I try to tell you, you didn't have to go and you didn't have to do any of that. But, so now it's easier to say, you might want to take a look at that down the road, see what the big picture is. And so I suspect that this is part of growing up for me, is recognizing that I'm not the one that has all the answers in their eyes. I only know what I've known for the time I've known it. So I try to share, but that's part of being young. You have to be young and dumb.
But I feel like they all look to you for answers still.
Well, on some things, yeah. And the outcome, unfortunately, is the same. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, this is one you got to do on your own. Because I never had to deal with this. So this is, those are the differences for me. Because I don't remember my mom saying I never had to deal with this, but maybe she did. But I like my kid. I like my grandkids. I like my great-grandkids. I like them a lot. And, I really want to try to leave them with as much information as they can have, because not that they need it for tomorrow or a month from now or a year from now, but maybe it's information they'll think back on in 10 years and go, oh, that's what she was talking about. That's what she meant.
You talked about having a schedule outside of, after going to work, you have a schedule. And
Yes.
this is a good plug moment. You have a lot of businesses that you work with outside of being on TV every morning.
Yeah. Well, we just had our auction, the Whoopi Goldberg auction at Julian's, which is still going on apparently, which I hadn't realized, but it's still, you can still get some of the crazy things that I've collected throughout my life. That's great. I have a clothing line, which is called IWBC, I Want to Be Comfortable, and it's all about comfortable clothes. I love comfortable clothes, and so I am desperate to bring more comfort to people. So I'm doing that. I have a line called Whoopi and Maya, which is a marijuana line, which allows people who have cramps or muscle cramps or period cramps to use topicals that don't get you high, but they remove the pain. I like that. And we have another group that is called Emma and Clyde, that's named after my mother and my brother. And that's also another weed line, which is more for the recreational people. So my fingers are in a lot of different things, and Tom would kick me if he was close enough, if I don't mention that documentary's being made about me. I don't know what it's called yet, but it's all about me.
And it's your life.
It's my life and times. And, I started a all women's sports network, which I'm really proud and happy about. I tried to do this years and years and years ago. I wanted to do it because I always felt that people didn't recognize the athleticism of women on the planet. And so in the last few years, people are starting to know now that that's happening. But the network really takes women from around the world, all kinds of different sports. And we're on something called we're everywhere. We're on Pluto, DirecTV, Amazon Prime. We're in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And it's, you name a sport. There are all kinds of sports that Americans don't know much about, but they happen in the Caribbean, or they happen in Taiwan, or they happen in Egypt. It's amazing. So we're covering all kinds of stuff like that. And I just wanted to make sure that girls knew that there was a place for them in the sports world. Because when I was a kid, you had the one-off, who played like Babe Dietrich Zacharias, who was this all-round amazing sportswoman, or Althea Gibson, who was a fabulous tennis player. You had one-offs, but you didn't have a lot of women. And now we're seeing women hockey players, we're seeing women speed skaters, we're seeing women basketball players and football players, and they're in the karate ring. They're everywhere. And so I just wanted to celebrate that because I really want to introduce to the world women cards. You know, I don't know if they had baseball cards when you were little.
Yes, they did.
Well, you know, I'm talking way back now. But I always wanted to start baseball cards in high school for high school athletes so that you could watch an athlete as they grew. And so maybe one day that'll be the other thing that I do, is to make sure, or I'll go to Topps and say, hey, could you do this? And just celebrate all these young female athletes around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that you have, it's nice to see that you have your hands in different things, right? In the fashion world and in the media world and things like that.
Well, you know what? There are so many things that come through my head that over the years I thought, well, I should have tried to make that happen, or I should have spoken to somebody. And sometimes we did. You know, we talked to people years ago about creating something that was like an Amazon, but wasn't totally an Amazon, and for books, really. And we just couldn't find the people who had the money to say, hey, you got a great idea. You know, we wanted to create do you remember we wanted to create a directional thing? And I would tell people where to go, you know.
Like a GPS?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. But as your voice.
But as my voice. Uh-huh. What are you doing? Just make the turn.
Right.
What are you doing? You know, just fun, having some fun. So I don't like to be bored. I don't like to be bored, and I want there to be more laughter in the world. So I just really wanted to find ways to make it happen.
Yeah. I like that.
There's more.
You don't get to read. Those are my notes. I want to ask you about the Oscars because they were recently.
Yes, it says my favorite memory from hosting the Oscars.
Which is what?
Coming out of the ceiling.
That was my favorite memory of you hosting. If they asked you to host again, would you?
I probably would. But they won't ask.
That was my favorite. What was that, 1990? It was like 93, 94?
I don't know.
I remember, because respectfully, I remember being a child.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that, and I was like, this is the coolest thing of you coming out of the ceiling.
And that was the first time they'd been in that building.
Was that wasn't the Kodak Theater, was it?
Yeah. The first time they were there was the time I came out of the ceiling.
Did you pitch that idea?
Yeah.
And you were like, I want to come out of the ceiling.
Moulin Rouge, baby.
Okay.
And they were like, oh, we got a Moulin Rouge for you. And it was up literally in the ceiling. And they lowered me down all the way down to the floor.
Yeah.
It was kind of fabulous.
A little nerve-wracking if you don't like heights.
Well, I didn't like heights, but I liked that.
Yeah. And you had fabulous outfits for that.
Yes.
You changed every 5 minutes in that show.
Well, because
those shows, I should
women, because, you know, a woman could do that. I saw that Conan tried to do that this time.
Yes.
But generally, no one ever changed their clothes. One year I wore all the costumes from all the movies. One year I wore something really crazy and fabulous. One time I wore a Lucy outfit. I wasn't hosting them, but people got really annoyed with me. Because, you know, when you watch the I Love Lucy, she's always in one of those, it looks like an overgown. Like it buttons here and it's kind of sheer and you can see she's got on capri pants underneath. I wore it in lime green. People lost their mind. They were, what the hell are you wearing? I was like, they were like, never again. And they hurt my feelings.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
Do your feelings get hurt?
Yeah.
They do?
Oh my God, yes, of course they do.
I feel like you're like, nothing can touch you.
You know, I do that for a reason. because it seems to me when people know they can hurt you, they try. And when they're not sure, they don't try as often. What I can tell you is, yeah, you can hurt my feelings, but then I realize that you're just another person and I don't have to take whatever you said to heart. But it doesn't mean I don't feel it. I just don't take it to heart and live with it. I don't let it fester. I'll tell you, I have no problem saying, I'm sorry, what did you just say? You're telling me about myself. You don't know me.
Right.
So why am I listening to you? But yeah, somebody says something mean and it's like, oh, did you mean to hurt my feelings? Was that what you were trying to do? And sometimes it's like, yes, that was what you were trying to do. Okay. I should never speak to you again.
Yeah, that's the lesson. Does the pressure of that, like the social media aspect of people, like I guess you'd call it bullying, does that ever bother you also, or not really? Because these people
I don't read it.
don't know, and you don't.
Well,
care
I don't
about.
read it anymore. When
People like to pick fights.
Started,
you know.
Yeah, people like to pick fights, but if you want to pick a fight with me, call me. I'm not going to fight with you in public because that only serves your purpose. It does not serve mine. So no, I'm not a public fighter. I am somebody who has opinions that I'm paid to speak on, and I do that. And sometimes if I feel like I've gone too far, I apologize because you think, well, how would if I said that 7 years ago and now you're a grown up, I wonder how that makes you feel now. And so I think about how would it make me feel? And I think, okay, let me apologize. I did this recently with, what is it? America's Next Top Model. So years ago, there was a challenge. And every time I think of it, it's so bad, but it was a challenge. And it was these swinging.
Yes. Yep. It was like swinging discs or something.
Yeah, they were like in a clock.
Yeah.
Not pendulums.
Yeah.
Swinging pendulums. And I don't think they thought
No.
that they was going to hit anybody, knock them off the runway.
And
it was terrible. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And I laughed my behind off, and then I showed it on The View, and everybody laughed. And recently, there was a documentary
made
about America's Next Top Model. And they showed me, because I'm laughing at it in the documentary. And I felt really terrible because I thought, how old is that young lady now? And I'm sure that wasn't what she was trying to do. So I apologized on the show, and she texted me. She sent me a beautiful text. Or she didn't send it to me. She wrote a beautiful thing and put it out. And she basically said, Whoopi, you are the reason I was able to look at this and laugh.
because she couldn't before.
Because she couldn't before. She said, but when I saw how much joy you got out of it, she said, it made me laugh. And then I was able to deal with it. She said, now the people who owe me the apology, of course, is America's Next Top Model. But I thought that was really forgiving of her.
Yeah.
Because she's a big old model now, and she's, stunning and gorgeous, and she was a kid then.
And the trauma they went through on that show was...
Yeah, I couldn't get through the whole thing. It was too hard for me.
Right. There was nobody... When I watched it, it was sort of... There was nobody there going, that's not a good idea.
Yeah. Nobody said, hey, don't do that.
Not a production assistant, not anybody that said, maybe we shouldn't do blackface.
Or how about maybe we shouldn't show people having sex in the bathroom?
Right.
Maybe that's inappropriate. I just feel like there's some things that you say, okay, I get why you did it. You thought you were doing something, you were going to show people of the world, and so you didn't know that was probably not a great idea to darken people up. But you knew you shouldn't have been shooting that. and showing it. Then you showed it.
Yep.
You know, so that kind of made me feel very bad, you know, because I thought, wow. And that happens a lot. I feel like it happens a lot today where people know they shouldn't be doing this. Don't do that. Why are you doing that? But I also know that you can't tell people. They have to figure it out themselves and then figure out why it isn't a good idea. But it's hard when you get older and you see stuff and you think, but why don't you see this?
Going into the bathroom with a camera while people are having, like, it.
You know.
Nobody.
There's no world in which that works.
No.
Unless
you wouldn't
you're being,
do that to a friend. You wouldn't let a friend do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
And certainly not somebody whose care whose care you have charge of. And you know, and they all know, they saw it, they understand now that it was probably not a good idea, but you know, but the reason I apologized is because I felt terrible, and I thought, man, that was a young girl, you know, and
someone's kid,
somebody's kid, and you're laughing.
Yeah.
But then she watched it and she said it was funny, and it was,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But she popped right back up though.
Yep.
Kept on rolling.
That was the point. Were you a big reality show person when that came out?
No.
Ever?
No.
Could you see yourself on a reality show?
No.
I don't think I could. Like, you wouldn't do like a Survivor or something.
Oh, no.
You'd last about 30
Baby,
seconds.
look. I need to have a cushion on my seat.
Yep.
I need to have clothes on. I need to know where my snacks are. I need not to go fishing. I need not to be walking in nasty mud. Those days are done. I could have done that in my 20s, you know. Hippie Whoopi, yeah. Old ass Whoopi now?
Even for a lot of money?
There's not enough money.
Yeah.
You know, people ask that question, would you ever take your top off for a lot of money? No. I would not have taken my top off for any reason. Because it's like, why? Why?
Yeah.
If you're in a movie, nobody can touch it. I mean, what's the point? You know, if you're not getting any, you know, friendship there, why are you showing? But some people can. I am not one who can. I'd have to flip everything behind me because everything's on the floor now. But that's neither here nor there.
That's not this pod. That's a different podcast.
Well,
my friend asked you a question last year that went viral, and I loved it. And you know what I'm talking about. It was the question that says, "What's your favorite part about going to work?" And she asked you this question, and it went viral because you said getting paid, and so many people thought the same way.
well, yeah. I mean, a good paycheck is a good paycheck.
A paycheck is a paycheck.
That's my favorite thing.
Yep. The second favorite thing
Second favorite thing.
about going to any type of work.
Oh, well, being able to go to any kind of work, you know, and do it the way that I want to do it. You know, I like, it doesn't sound like I'm healthy because I keep clearing my throat, but I like being healthy. I like being able to get up and go and do what I want to do or do what's necessary to be done. Hey, you are still watching the McBride Rewind. Now, you wanted to know.
Tell me what I wanted to know.
Well, you wanted to know when I wake up at midnight and I'm hungry, what do I go for?
Yeah.
It depends
Not
on.
wasabi crackers. Not at midnight.
Sometimes, but really something that I know will make me happy. It's usually something that I need. It's like maybe a chocolate covered something or some nuts or something. Let me amend that.
No, we're keeping that in. We're keeping that in. I do remember one of my questions that I really wanted to ask you too.
The first person I call in the morning?
Is it Tom?
Only if he's called me first. I generally try not to know where my phone is because I don't like the idea of having to be tied to it. So I put it in different places.
So who's the first person if it's not Tom?
I don't generally call anybody.
Okay. You do text.
I don't generally, well, I only text if I have to.
Yeah.
I try not to do it.
Yeah.
If I could be president for one day, I would fire the guy who's in there now.
Well, we knew that.
Well, then why you ask me? No. The thing I remember most about The Lion King was just hanging out and doing it with Cheech Marin. Just Cheech and I just being ridiculous and funny and having a good time.
How much of what you do was ad-libbed by you? We once had a conversation, and I can tell you where we had the conversation, but we were talking about the movie Eddie, which you know is one of my favorites.
Right.
My brother and I do the quotes from that movie. And you said that wasn't ever in there. I added that.
Yeah.
How much of what you do in movies is like, I don't like that, I'm changing it, I'm doing it my way?
Well, it doesn't. That's not the thing. It's, I'll do it the way that it's written, but if it doesn't ring correctly, I will say, can I do this? Can I try this? Because sometimes, people write, but they don't write for you to speak. So you have to sort of put it back in your mouth and figure out how would I really say this? So that happens a lot for me.
Even in The Lion King, would you do that too?
Oh yeah, oh my God, yeah. We did quite a bit of that. Mufasa.
Would you ever do an Eddie 2?
I would.
I
I
think
love
would
that
be
movie.
That is a great movie to have a
Yeah.
sequel to.
Listen, I'm trying to get, Sister Act 3, Eddie 2, if you have listeners who are sitting out there who are big fans of Eddie and you have some money and you want to make a movie, think about Eddie 2. But if you are someone who works in Disney and you think, boy, I'd like to see Sister Act 3, remind them that we're trying to figure out where and how it can get done. Thank you.
A PSA.
PSA. Which is pronounced pussa.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We do have to wrap up. Is there
Okay.
any question that you see that I haven't asked that you thought would be a good ending question?
No, but I'll ask you one that's here.
Okay.
Josh, what do you think my hidden talent is?
That's a good one. Your hidden talent.
Mm-hmm.
This might be known though, so I don't know if it's design.
Why?
I've been to your office, I've been to your house a number of times, and everything has a specific space that things go into. And it's there for a reason, and there's a 20-minute story behind it, whether it's a shoe rack or a coat hanger. Thank you for my coat hangers, by the
You're
way. That you just
welcome.
bought
You're
my new
welcome.
house. Everything has a space,
Yeah.
and you have an eye that is like an interior designer, and that so that if this table should be here or should it be an inch forward or should it be white,
Right.
and that's what I think your hidden talent is.
Thank you, Josh.
Am I right with that?
Yeah, you are.
I also think your other talent is, and maybe this isn't a talent, but I think to insert myself here a bit, it's called the McBride Rewind. You stand for the people that you love. And we've had situations where people have came at me, maybe, and you trust the people that you love and you stand with them.
Well, I don't like when people are wrong, and the people who were coming at you were wrong and incorrect and feeding people bullshit. Pardon my French. And I needed them to straighten themselves out and get their story correct rather than dwelling on you who had done nothing wrong.
Right.
They were basically dancing to hide the fact that they didn't know what they were doing.
You still hold, and that's not a hidden talent necessarily, but you hold trust in the people that are closest to you also, and I appreciate that.
Listen, I trust until I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of dumb and it takes a long time, but I'm good until I'm not. And once I'm not, when I'm not, I'm done. But
Your
then
cutoff game is strong.
My cutoff game is very strong because I know that I've waited a long, long, long time before I say no more. We can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So I really try to be present. I'm not always present, but I do try.
Well, thank you for being present here.
Well,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you for having me come by the McBride Rewind.
And we'll end there.
All right.